I was a part of it when George W. Bush proposed Social Security reform in 2005. The time has come for us to have the kind of leadership that says to everyone that's got hair the same color as me, nothing's going to change for you.
Yeah, but what about people with beautifully chemically altered hair like mine? What happens to me considering I pay into Social Security and should be entitled to those benefits later? He doesn't address that, shockingly. But let's hear more from Mike Pence, who wants to privatize Social Security.
To give younger Americans better choices that would also be better for the country, I think is an idea whose time has come. There's a way back. There are modest reforms in entitlements that can be done without disadvantaging anybody at the point of the need.
Doubt it.
And actually, I think the day could come when we can replace the New Deal with a better deal.
The better deal is privatizing Social Security and having your retirement savings 100% tied to risk, meaning the stock market, because Social Security is really the only retirement program that guarantees income for people who have retired. And of course, big businesses, the wealthy, want to gut it, they want to privatize it because they don't want to pay taxes in order to keep it funded and well functioning. Now, go ahead, Cenk. This is what the Republican Party is. I just hope you guys understand that as they lie to you in your face and pretend like they're not looking to cut Social Security or privatize Social Security. They absolutely have been looking at doing so. They will continue persistently fighting to do so. This is who they are. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, the other thing that you get if you privatize Social Security is giant Wall Street fees. Trillions of dollars in fees that will go to the bankers in this country who donate generously to Mike Pence and other politicians. So that's not a little thing, that's the mother lode. They've been looking to privatize it so they can get those fees for decades now. And so that's why George W. Bush tried it, and now here they come again. Now, guys, when you hear words like better choices, slight reform, make Social Security stronger, a better deal, those are all code words for we're gonna cut it, we're gonna slash it, okay? So remember we've talked about this before, whatever you would have gotten if you got to retire at 65, or these days for most of you 67, right? And you're gonna get Social Security that year, whatever the number is for you, you will not get it if the retirement age is 68. If it's 70, you won't get 3 years worth of payments that you put into. And of course, they're hoping that a lot of you don't get it, that you pass away before then. And that way, hey, we never had to pay you guys, even though you paid into it your whole lives, okay? I mean, this is as offensive a robbery as you could possibly imagine, brought to you by the most fake populist you have ever seen in your life.
Yes.
This Republican Party pretending to be populist is insane.
It's hilarious, right? Yeah. What a joke. And by the way, I mean, let's just note, he was speaking before the National Association of Wholesale-Distributors. Okay, so big business. And remember, when it comes to funding Social Security, it's funded through payroll taxes, which a lot of employers don't want to have to pay. So that's part of the equation as well. And what does Pence want to do for a better model, right? Something better than Social Security. Well, he wants to implement private savings accounts instead of Social Security, which again, Social Security provides guaranteed income that's not tied to risk for our senior citizens. It was a program developed under FDR. And it was a response to the Great Depression, which obviously devastated Americans. Now, the popular argument that Social Security privatization would provide higher returns for all current and future workers is misleading because it ignores transition costs and differences across programs in the allocation of aggregate and household risk, according to Olivia Mitchell, John Giannakopoulos, and Stephen Zeldis, economists who are actually sympathetic to the idea of privatization. They wrote a paper back in 2000 where they're like, yeah, like the private savings account idea turns out not such a great idea.
Yeah, so it increases transition costs. It increases transaction cost, like not transition, but transaction costs. Yep. And that's the fees that I was telling to you guys about going to the bankers. Now, the other thing that it does is, as Anna keeps talking about risk, they're saying, oh, don't worry, you're gonna get so much more. But there's no free lunch. You know the stock market, sometimes it goes up and sometimes it goes down. And when it goes down, they're gonna tell you, oh, now, well, you got a 2% more the other year, but now you're getting 40% less this year because it went down.
Sorry.
Yeah, and they're gonna say nobody could have seen it coming, when in reality, literally every expert sees that coming.
Exactly.
So it's frustrating because they're all liars and they're looking to cut all of these programs because they got to create more money to give to the rich. So there's more.
Now, the GOP is also eyeing cuts to Medicare. In fact, it's clear in a new piece of legislation proposed by Republicans in the House, it would roll back some of the provisions in Biden's Inflation Reduction Act that actually lower the costs for Medicare recipients. It was unveiled by freshman Republican, again, Andy Ogles is his name, from Tennessee. The bill has 20 original co-sponsors and is endorsed by several right-wing groups, including the Koch-funded organization Americans for Prosperity. And what is it that they're eyeing specifically from the Inflation Reduction Act? Get a load of this. Initially, Biden had a provision in that bill, in the Build Back Better agenda, that would have allowed Medicare to negotiate the prices of all pharmaceutical drugs, okay? With the help of corporate Democrats, Republicans were able to defeat that provision and instead have a more watered down version of it, which allows Medicare to negotiate like a handful of some of the most highly priced pharmaceutical drugs. Well, Republicans can't have that. So that is what they're looking to reverse in their legislation. The Inflation Reduction Act authorized a $35 per month cap on insulin co-payments for Medicare recipients, as well as an annual $2,000 total limit on out-of-pocket drug costs. That would save money for Medicare. And the Republican Party's like, no, we want to reverse that because we want to do right by our pharmaceutical company donors. That's what this is about.
Okay, on that one, it's outrageous what they're proposing because the so-called reform that Biden did was pathetic. And they got nonstop marketing from mainstream media calling it historic, when in reality it regulates about 10 drugs out of thousands and thousands of drugs. And it doesn't even do that till 2026. It's absurd. It was a fig leaf to make it seem like Democrats did something for you when they didn't do anything for you. So now Republicans going, in their infinite greed, no, not good enough. We want that 0.01% of drugs that were regulated. We don't want them regulated, and we want you paying higher prices for it. You know why they do that? Because that is such a politically dumb move to do for a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of the drug market, right? You had a perfectly good robbery that Joe Biden had set up for you.
Exactly.
Okay,
yep.
But they can't help themselves because there's no refs. No media outlet goes, can you believe that the Republicans are doing this robbery, right? Instead, they make it seem 50-50. Maybe they're looking to improve Medicare by making sure that you pay more. I don't know, I'm gonna write it so that you can't tell who's right and who's wrong. So they think, well, there's nobody in charge. There's nobody telling people what outrageous things we're doing. So let's just ask for everything. And we'll probably get it because Biden loves giving stuff to Republicans.
And wall-to-wall coverage of the Chinese surveillance balloon, of course, but very little coverage on the fact that Republicans in the House proposed legislation that would force elderly people on Medicare in this country to pay far more for pharmaceutical drugs that they need to survive. Now, finally, we go to Matt Gaetz, who says, look, maybe we can't touch Social Security and Medicare because they're super popular programs, but maybe we should cut funding to other programs, like programs that children living in poverty desperately need. Let's watch.
If you impose work requirements on all means-tested entitlement programs for working age people, not for the disabled, not for seniors, but for working age people, it's $1 trillion in savings during the 10-year budget window.
This is in Medicaid and other.
This is in Medicaid and in food stamps.
In food stamps, sure. It's discretionary spending.
Yeah, those are the biggest. The biggest chunks are from the Obamacare Medicaid expansion to able-bodied adults,
yes, I keep
and to
Social Security and
it's over 400
Social Security and Medicare are off the table. But you're saying you're taking Medicaid and other aspects of discretionary spending.
If it was Matt Gaetz, I think that we do need reforms to Social Security and Medicare. I understand politically. Enough people,
but that can come later.
That's not
going
to happen now.
Right.
Medicaid,
and you don't need to have.
By the way, Medicaid should not be a sacred cow.
Big time.
And so, but it hasn't been. You notice people don't talk about Medicaid.
No, it's
always,
when they're talking about
Medicare, Social Security.
Wow, what an economic populist wanting to cut funding to things like SNAP, which, by the way, nearly half of the Americans who rely on SNAP benefits or food stamps are children. So you want work requirements for children? This is who the Republican Party is. It's really important for people to understand that. So when you hear their critiques on corporate America, it's never about corporate America fleecing you. It's always about we didn't like this positive message corporate America put out about black people. They're so woke, we're so against that. That's not an economic populist. That's called same old in the Republican Party. Let's just keep it real.
Yeah, so one of the interesting things in that interaction was how nervous Bannon was.
Yep.
He kept interrupting Matt Gaetz and kept saying, "And remember, it's not Social Security or Medicare." But if you notice, he said, "We're gonna do that later."
Right.
Well, you just tipped your hand anyway. But Bannon's a little nervous because he knows that a lot of people watching him are old. That's the great majority of Republican voters. And so they're nervous about Social Security and Medicare. So he's like, no, Matt, don't tell them our plan. That's later, Matt, that's later. When we gut them and then we take all the money and we give it to ourselves and to our corporate donors. Shh, Matt, later. Meanwhile, let's go hit the poor, the middle class, whoever else has got issues. Oh, your family, you couldn't afford insurance, you were on Medicaid. Your kid got cancer. Tough luck. Rob them first, Matt. Rob them first. You notice what Matt Gaetz said? There's $1 trillion, he said, in savings. That's $1 trillion that would have gone to people who need it, that are poor or yes, sometimes middle class. Because Jesus, look at minimum wage. Look at what people actually get paid. You can't live on that, right? A lot of people that work at Walmart and these other stores get Medicaid and SNAP, right? So they're saying $1 trillion of wealth redistribution, but taking it from the people who need it the most and giving it to the people who need it the least. They're gonna take that, and they already gave $2 trillion in tax cuts to the rich under Trump. They're planning more tax cuts. And where are they gonna get the money? They're gonna get it from you. And so first they're gonna hit these economic ladders.
Yep.
Then they're gonna hit the elderly. These are the most disgusting people on earth. And guys, again, there's all sorts of disinformation all over media. So how do you know? 2 + 2 still equals 4. You can look up the plans. And Matt Gaetz just told you, it's gonna take $1 trillion from people who desperately need food stamps, Medicaid's to save their lives, their kids' lives, right? He's gonna take $1 trillion from them and they're gonna give it to the rich. It's in the numbers, it's in the proposals. These people are terrible human beings. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.